going to go ahead and do, the time is 8:55. We're going to go ahead and do the action on closed session items at this time. Mrs. Bailey.
Yes, Madam President. I move to appoint Michael Brassfield to the position of Director of Transportation.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bailey and a second by Mr. Rice. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Good. And any opposed? Motion is unanimous. All right, so, yes, sir. Oh, we have, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. All right, do we want to do that first, or do we want to continue on the?
It's up to you.
All right, let's do the action item next. We'll look at 6A, which is the action item of the guaranteed maximum price for elementary school 46, which I'll have to find in here. It's on page 61. 61. So the guaranteed maximum price of $20,638,774. Do we have a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve item 6A as presented. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rice and a second by Mrs. Bailey. Do we have any discussion?
Just to clarify, I do. Excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Rosenthal.
This is just construction cost. That is correct. So we're not talking about full moving. That's correct. Just wanted that on record.
We're getting smarter every meeting. True. Any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand then. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Everybody's in favor. Okay, so that's it. We don't need action items.
Correct.
All right, we're back to the beginning, folks. We're back to item 2B. We did part 1, so now we're on part 2, the proposed resolutions related to bond oversight and accountability. So first we have the Bond Oversight Committee resolution, which is on page 27. Dr. Dupree, do you have any comments? Or
Well, this is a resolution at the board's directive at the July 21st meeting. You asked us to formalize the Bond Oversight Committee. They have been meeting, of course, more in an unofficial capacity, although we're still relying on their outcomes. But we wanted to bring this resolution to the board for your consideration. That kind of formalizes the structure, the makeup of the committee, and the responsibilities and scope of work. There's two additional items that are not specifically in here, but I think you do need to consider as you consider action. One is we did not address in the resolution how a chairperson would be identified, and that's been a question we need to, whether the board wants to put that in the resolution or just wants to direct me, at a meeting, that either, however you choose to see that. But I've just been facilitating the meetings, pending board direction on actually naming a chair and a co-chair. The other item is we've had some citizens express concern that maybe the representation on the committee does not adequately represent the diversity of our community, and they've asked that we expand the membership a little bit to bring a little more diversity into the committee and represent the entire Fort Bend community. So we would do that unless the board suggests otherwise.
all right, do we have any comments?
We need a motion first. Are we going to vote on this?
We are not voting on it. We're not voting on anything else tonight, Mr. Rice. We'll vote on all of this next week.
Well, my comment would be, I think we should, when we do vote on it, I would be in favor of directing Dr. Dupree to work with the Bond Oversight Committee to appoint or elect a chair, and further to add additional persons to expand the diversity, as he mentioned, and not get it too big, and then send us the resumes of those people that you add.
And would you suggest that they elect their own chair, or would you like to appoint a chair, or how would you, what guidance would you give, if any? And you can pass that question on to someone else. I think he was asking for our direction, so I was putting you on the spot.
Go ahead.
Go
I
ahead.
have an idea.
Yes.
The last meeting when they chose Darren and Greg, right, is it Greg that came here tonight?
Gary.
It was quite clear that they were the ones that the committee chose. So everyone pointed at them, and that was very clear. So I'm in favor of letting the committee choose who, not that they're going to choose the same people, but it was very clear to them during the meeting who that was, so.
Okay, so letting them pick their own
I
chair?
would be in favor of that, and I'm in favor of expanding for diversity as well. I think that's a good
Because
idea.
they are the one who's going to work together, and, if we appoint somebody, if that is not the right person, they all think, then that's not, it is all the purpose. So I think let them elect their own leader and no one. I
Okay.
support that.
So, Mr. Morris, do we need to put language in the resolution about that, or not? Or is it about electing their own chair? Or do you know?
Well, I haven't looked at the,
Microphone, please.
Max, could you just hand him your microphone?
Not a sound system.
Do we have a sound system in the plan? Yeah.
I have not had opportunity to review the resolution. The board could defer to the committee to choose its additional members. I think if the board wants its will expressed, though, it would make more sense to amend the resolution to add that language and have that presented to you on the 18th.
Okay, I think I was more concerned about the chair, the election of a chair. And we were talking about them having, choosing their own chair from amongst themselves. So does that need to be in the resolution, or can we just say that that's how we want it to be? No.
I think similarly, if that's the will of the board, to make it clear, I would express it in an amended resolution.
Okay, so maybe we can fix that up for next week.
Yes.
All right. Next thing is the accountability resolution.
Likewise, based on, a lot of this came out of the Bond Oversight Committee, but also the board has expressed the desire to affirm the board's commitments to this community regarding how any proceeds from the bond will be used. There's community concern about perhaps some bond funds have not been used appropriately in the past, and they want to make sure that they are. So we've prepared, actually, Rick Morris, along with our bond counsel, Jonathan Frails, prepared this resolution for board consideration. So we'll invite you to discuss and kind of share your perspectives.
Would anybody like, Mrs. Townsend, would you like to comment?
Well, first of all, I think what was prepared was very well done, that it addresses the concern of how any contingency will be used, if there should be any left. It was done in a way that was generic, and yet directs this board and any future board and administration to use any additional funds for only things that are outlined in the current, or not only in the current capital plan, but any capital plan that may come about due to any changes in demographics or things in the future that would impact it. So with that, and allowing for that flexibility, and yet still keeping us on the track of only spending those funds in a way that the community has vetted, I would support the resolution, and I think it would be a good thing for us to go ahead and put forward.
Okay, it really focuses on the long-term needs of the district and the plan, and all the planning that we've done, and focuses the money to be used for these long-term needs. So I think that's excellent, and I also like the phrase in here about using leftover money or contingency money for debt retirement, and so that's good. Anything else we want to add to that?
I think it too strengthens the fiscal responsibility that we've all been trying to make sure that we have, so.
Yes.
I just want to thank admin for putting this together, and I think this is a big step in the right direction. Things that have happened in the past, we're trying to get over it. And we have a new E-team, we have a new superintendent in place, and I feel that this kind of seals their commitment to the community, that these bond proceeds are not going to be misspent on I achieve and those kind of things. So I think it's a great job. It sends out a really good signal to the community that we are listening to them and we are being transparent.
Another thing that I think is worth mentioning, as we discussed, that this type of resolution is really groundbreaking. So this is not something that has been done elsewhere. And so I too would applaud admin and really this board for looking out for the community concerns and interests.
Excellent. Okay. Let's move on to item number 3, which is the proposed order approving a joint election agreement and contract for election services with Fort Bend County for the bond election on November 4th. So do you have anything you want to say about that, or?
Well, Steve, is this coming from you, or is this from Cynthia?
I think it's coming from our area, but if we have questions on it, I'd like to bring bond counsel up to the table.
Do we have any questions? Got the order, it's got this election agreement and the cost for that.
Yes.
I have a couple questions. Is this the one that starts on 34? Is that right?
Yes, it starts on 30, the agenda item is on page 34, yes.
Okay. Is this the order?
It's kind of a two-part thing.
I was going to say, it's two parts, so I have some
We
questions
have
about
it-
one part of it.
Okay, we have the order of election, which is
Right.
the order, which is the written out part, and then we have the contract for election services.
Okay, so my questions, in the statement, in the bond order that we make about what we're going to be able to purchase, the land and the facilities and that type of thing, we include the buses in there, but we don't say anything about the cameras for the buses specifically. So my question was just that, do we need to include that? Is that included in buses? I'm not sure how those are purchased, so that's my first question.
Ms. Tassin, you're speaking about the election order, and so they're two different documents.
things.
And the election order, that goes, when you talk about school buses in general, and then also talk about equipment in general, so it is covered already in the broad language that's in the order.
Okay, so I'm talking about something different, which is what I feared. So I can wait until we get to that. Are we getting to that later?
I think that's
Actually, I think we've already been there. It's on number 1.
Oh, have we? Oh, sorry. Well, so which page is that on? I'm sorry.
It's in the
Page-
top
15?
Page 16,
Okay.
if I'm, yes.
So I just want to make sure because,
The bottom of page 16, proposition number 1.
okay, so, well, first of all, we have the 542 million in there instead of the 530, of course, that's going to change anyway. So that was one question that I had. So you're saying that the cameras are included in the buses, just the general?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So my other question is, it seemed like the way it was worded, it said including technology, infrastructure, and safety and security. It sounded like that tied that to the facilities instead of just the including sort of tied back to the facilities part. And so my question is, shouldn't we just list the technology, infrastructure, and safety and security, since that's for the entire district, not just tied to the facilities that we're building? I just had some concern about the phrasing of that.
Sure. We can work on phrasing however you'd like it to. The idea for why it was included there was, it was an expression of, and including but not limited to, in connection with the facilities upgrades in general. To the extent that it's going to be broader, we can move it down beyond, after the school buses piece, and more broadly address that. This was just a specific request from the district in order to ensure that the community knew that these two types of infrastructure were things that were going to be dealt with.
And so that's the way I read it, is that we intended to say it includes the technology, infrastructure, and the safety and security, which were outlined in the plans that we received. But the way I read it is, I think the including actually ties back to the facilities instead of just being more broad.
And we can certainly, we can certainly move that.
As well as or something.
Exactly. I think it just needs to be moved into a different spot.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
And I think to clarify, what we just referred to was back to number 1, which was the bond order. The item we're on now is actually the contract with the county to conduct the election, the joint election.
Right.
So,
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's all one big item.
Yes. But it's good for us to realize we'll have several things to vote on next week. All right, moving on then to the policy FC local regarding boundaries, feeder patterns, and distribution of programs. Do we have, so that's on page 54. And this is coming out of the work that we did a few weeks ago, where we kind of brainstormed some of these policies. So thank you, Ms. Rincon, for getting it all together for us and writing it up. Do we have any questions? All right, go ahead. Mrs. Bailey.
Since that workshop was so long ago, didn't we talk about one of the principles being that the zone kids to a campus that hosts a special program will not be zoned out of that school to keep that special program going? I thought we talked about that.
I thought I remember something like that as well.
We did talk about that specific. Where would that fit in here?
Well, I was thinking it should be one of the principles. So it would be page 2 of 5. And it should be a bullet point. And then we also talked about, we talked about the purpose of special programs and all that other kind of stuff. But we also talked about the special program doesn't belong to a campus. It's portable. We can move them.
Yeah, and that's in there in another place. I know I saw that.
Yeah, the other thing that the first part you brought up is kind of under the consider impact on student zone, but what you're stating is a little stronger, which is what I also remember how we put it.
Yeah, I think it should be strong because this is, depending on what y'all think, but this is still a source of contention in the community today. The zoning of 2011. And they did approve to zone kids to accommodate a special program. And I just want to make sure we have that in policy that will not happen. Special programs get moved before we zone those kids out.
Yep.
So just a little stronger wording from the considerations. Actually, it's in the decision principles.
Which page?
On page 2.
Okay.
it talks about consider impact on student zone to campuses when distributing programs among schools. But I think you want it a little
I
stronger.
want stronger language,
Okay, and
yes.
put it at the front. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the front, but it just needs to be a stronger statement, I think is what she's saying. I think it's what we said before.
Then it could stay in the board's decision principles?
Yes, I think it's fine to be in the
Yes, that's where I
decision
put it.
principles.
Okay.
But it just needs to be a stronger sentence.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, other questions? Mrs. Tosser?
A couple things. In the purpose portion, and I know this is, I think, said a little bit later, but in that last sentence that we will distribute programs, et cetera, in a manner that best utilizes district facilities, I would like to add and meets student need. I know we have that a little bit lower, but I think we need to really have that at the top, and it's not just to best utilize district facilities. I think in order to stay student-centered.
I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you.
Down on page 2 of 5, it says minimize long-term use of temporary classrooms that cause a school to operate at more than capacity. I would take out long-term and just say that we just want to, because long-term can be vague. I would say we just want to minimize the use of temporary classrooms, period. Because what does long-term means? 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 6 years. It depends on what you
15
think
years.
long-term means, so.
How the weeds grow.
And minimize implies we will do it for
We
when
will
we
do
need
it.
to, but we'll minimize the
Exactly.
amount of time.
We're just going to minimize it. On page 3 of 5, where we list the following are achieved, equitable school system is maintained, et cetera, I would put an "and" after equitable educational opportunities are available so that it's inclusive.
I also felt that there should be something in there about longer-term projections. And I also made that note down on page 4, so needs to somehow figure that, where that fits. Instead of just yearly. In other words, it needs to look out more than a year. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. That's good.
I'm sorry, just to be sure that
Yeah.
I'm getting clear. So we're talking about the annual enrollment review,
Yes.
and you're saying to add "and" after equitable educational opportunities,
Yeah.
that sentence there?
So that all three are considered inclusively, yeah.
And can we put something in there that makes it so it's an annual review, but it is a projection that's not just a one-year projection, it's a multi-year projection? I don't know what when I originally read this, we were just looking at 1 year. And then I know that that's not what we're doing. And I know later on, page 4, we start to talk about construction and so forth. I just want to make it clear that we need to be talking about construction, we have to look out more than a year, we have to look out multiple years. And it doesn't indicate that anywhere that I
Annual
noticed.
projected review.
Excuse
An
me?
annual review of projected,
Yes.
is what you're...
Right.
Of
It
projected
does say,
facilities and
projection
development.
data.
Well, it does, yeah, it does use
Projection
projected.
data.
And we will get updated numbers every year.
Perhaps
So
maybe at
I-
the end of that sentence where it says, at the annual enrollment review, maybe what we need to do is tag on something and make recommendations regarding a longer-range plan,
Projections.
longer-range plan, or...
Right.
Or
I mean,
updating long-range plans, something.
It's something that indicates we're going to look at more than just a year. We're going to try to look into the future and be cognizant that that's the point of it. Because if we only do it a year at a time, we're not going to get out of it what we really need. Got it? Thank you.
Under considerations, we used the 80 to 120%. I had a question of why, I'm confused about that. Why 120%?
Sort of a best practice, that's kind of where you start seeing some stress at the campuses, where it starts to feel crowded at the 120%, and the 80% is when things are obviously not utilized to capacity.
I think what we were thinking about that, Jason talked about it, that sometimes we can see a trending in a neighborhood that they're spiking, but then they're going to eventually drop.
So we're gonna-
So why do we want to rezone those kids and then rezone them over again? I think,
Okay.
Jason, that was,
I was just speaking about an anomaly in an aging neighborhood that's maybe changing demographics or,
Okay. Because I know we talked about the 80 to 85, I mean, we kind of talked at that 80% range, but, so that explains it. That was my question.
We talked about at 120%, some building might have temporary buildings and still not feel the stress that would cause the board to take action, like changing a boundary.
Well, and if it was going to change, because we also have to balance minimizing those
And looking at the
temporaries.
enrollment projections and things like that.
Okay, and then under alternative student enrollment options, I made a note here, so, you know, the options are listed, but I might like to see, just personally, some priorities or preferences inserted in there. For example, you know, we acknowledge that closing a school or it may be a last resort, that it's not a preferred option. And I don't know if that's something we need to put into policy, but that was, you know, when we had the discussions about it, you know, I know that these are obviously options, but I don't know if we can maybe insert some priorities or some preferences in there when we're going through this list.
there's actually examples in other districts where that does that and it prioritizes them. So in the following, gosh, what district was that? I want to say Fort Worth. Some other one too, where they actually use language. I think it was Fort Worth in their attendance zones. They actually said in the following priority,
Okay.
however they worded
And,
it.
you know, maybe we need to discuss that, I don't know, but, you know, as I was reading through this, you know, I just felt like, you know, there are some, I would place some as a higher priority or higher preference over some of these other options.
Well, and some of this is opposite, right? Closing a school or building a school, those are opposites.
Exactly, yeah, so it just, I don't know. Anyway, that's just a
We
comment.
definitely could add that language. I think the only thing is I would need guidance from the board with regard to what
That's
would be
what I
the
was,
priority.
it may take some more discussion from us.
Well, would you like to make a suggestion? The ones in the second section to me seem, you know, there's opposites there, so we can't necessarily
Right.
prioritize when they're for different situations.
So,
And I also not sure that we can say in every situation what's going to be the best choice, because it's depending upon a lot of factors that we can't articulate in a paragraph like this.
One thing I do want to share, thinking along those lines, perhaps this will help, is that's one of the reasons why we looked at the two sections, because something in the second section requiring board action, requiring community engagement, requiring much more work with the board's voice and the community's voice because of those situations being so different and not knowing what would be a priority for one school in one area versus
Yeah.
another community, another part of the community. So I do believe that we've somewhat addressed that in the sense of, these are the things that are going to take board action. And not only board action, but engagement with the community.
Okay. All right. You good? Okay. Thank you.
So we're going to leave that section
I think we're,
alone.
yeah, knowing that, realizing that every situation is going to be different. And so we're just going to have to, if a situation comes up, that's going to have to be part of the process when we do this annual review, that we're going to have to,
Makes sense.
And that
Discussion
suggestion
with the
came,
board, the community, the administration.
that suggestion came more out of my focus on what would be recommended versus, you know, as long as we have, the board has oversight and the board obviously will.
And I think that's what we wanted here.
Correct,
for
so
that
that's a
board
good point. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on this policy? Great, thank you very much for gathering all our information and all our conversation and consolidating it into something. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you all for your hard work.
All right, I think we have concluded the review items. We have concluded the closed session items. Look at us now, we're on to 7 review, A through U. A through U.
Can you say that again?
No, I'm not going to say anymore because it might get me in trouble. Okay. Item A is the employee medical plan. Do we have presentation?
We have a brief presentation.
Awesome.
Yay.
And are these the PowerPoints for it? We all have the
Yes, you do. And I do want to recognize Mr. Jared Moss from our consultant MHBT. He's here in the room to pick up the slack if I'm not able to cover everything, but we'll try to go through this. We received multiple RFPs when we put out when we issued the RFP in May. Aetna, United, Cigna, Mercer, all the usual suspects, Blue Cross Blue Shield. We had a strategy in terms of assessing the responses. We had a subcommittee from our benefits committee. We had a couple teachers, paraprofessional, auxiliary, and these 4 people were heavily involved. They were in all the meetings, gave us a lot of good input, and definitely picked up on things very quickly. Sonia Curtis, our Director of Payroll and Benefits, she was there, as well as myself, and then we had 3 folks from MHBT, and they were very, very helpful in the process. And of course, someone was there from purchasing, making sure we were handling things the right way. We had, beyond the initial submissions, we had meetings where we had, these folks had an hour and a half chance to present to us, the incumbent, then Blue Cross, then United, and then the Healthcare Partnership Group. That was a group from Houston ISD, and we met with them. We ended up selecting UHC. So I mean, there were 3 things, and we mentioned this in the memos and in the board agenda items. You know, really, customer service is one of the issues we're hoping to improve, the network, and our costs. So from a customer service perspective, whenever United was giving us their presentation, they talked a lot about their customer care and how that's going. And really, what caught my eye was that final bullet there, 95.4% first call resolution. I mean, they used to be assessed on how quickly they got somebody off the phone. Okay, I mean, that used to be their measure. Now their measure is, can they get everything done where it's resolved on the first call? And I think that's, very important. So, the calls are longer, but if somebody's walking away from that call, with their issue resolved, then that's certainly better. So I'm looking forward to that. From the cost perspective, we definitely think, really, and you'll see that on the next slide, the network is really driving this, but the cost associated with the annual fixed cost will be higher with UHC, and also Blue Cross was coming in higher than Cigna. However, because of the way the networks are structured, the claims projection is really where the big dollars are, and that's where we will be saving money overall. So we do see the plan for UHC being an improvement over our expected cost for Cigna next year by to the tune of $5.4 million. If you look at this, really this tells the tale with regard to why we've had such issues with Cigna and our costs, and it's really because of the network. 19% of our activity, of the providers that our folks are looking at and going to for their care, is outside of the network. And so from that perspective, and that just can really have a major impact on your costs. Blue Cross,
has a stronger network, and United has an even stronger network from that perspective. If everybody went to the same providers, okay, we just duplicated the year, only 5% of that activity would have been out of network. And so the providers gained by going to the United Healthcare Network is just over 1,100 providers. And so really, I think that this kind of tells a tale. Outside of the customer service, this is really kind of the main driver behind what we're talking about here. So the options for the United Healthcare Plan, the Open Access Plus and the Choice Fund, HRA, those benefits would remain the same, except that we would have larger networks, so that'd be a better situation for both the district and the employees. They'd have more choices there. The Local Plus plan, which is the Cigna-only plan, that would be replaced with a new plan that United Healthcare has created with the assistance of Methodist, and then they would have this Tier 1, Tier 2 specialist network, which is also expected to provide savings to us and then also to our members. So how would that look in terms of the benefits? The Local Plus benefits that we have with Cigna with their limited network is over on the left. You can see the deductible and the co-insurance amounts. The Tier 1 benefits, which would be Methodist Hospital System, and then the premium physicians for the Tier 1, it would be the same. And so we're trying to do as much of an apples to apples as we can, although we can't, specifically do everything that was in the Local Plus plan. We are going to have certainly as good a benefits overall. So our recommendation is to switch from Cigna to United Healthcare. We will be keeping the premiums the same for 2015. We're not going to ask the employees to pay more than what they're paying now for their plans. The Open Access Plus and the Choice Fund would remain the same. The Local Plus will be replaced with that Methodist and Tier 1, Tier 2 option. The other thing we want to do to improve our plan is to add 3 FTEs, and these would be funded through the Health Fund with the ongoing plan education, network utilization, and wellness. Based on some of the tools I've seen from United Healthcare, if these folks are out there really assisting our employees with the use of these tools, they're going to way more than pay for themselves with regard to our claims utilization. And our employees, I think, will be much happier. Timeline, again, I've bolded the award date in August. The implementation will begin this month. Annual enrollment would be in October for an effective date in January 1st. And we will continue with our benefits committee, but that's really the gist of our recommendation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bassett. Do we have any questions? Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes, Mr. Bassett. In the write-up in our Dropbox, you talked about, started going to the Mercer plan and how it was interesting, but it wasn't going to work for us. I'm just kind of curious, because aren't they the ones that offered the $5 monthly or whatever charges?
Sorry about that. We did have make a very good impression on the subcommittee. The group that was there just didn't get a good feeling from them overall. I think one of the biggest things, and Jared can chime in terms of going with them, because they were, Aetna was the plan that they were suggesting, there would have been a significant amount of disruption. And by disruption, what I mean is, when you have to change doctors, there would be a significant amount of that, in that plan. It's something we're going to continue to look at. But I think with the way things are and what I'm learning about the market in Southwest Houston, where we are, the Cigna plan and the Aetna plan, there's just not enough of their providers down here, and so the folks, didn't want to change providers and really travel farther for their care, and so I think that was really one of the issues. I don't know if Jared's got anything to add to that. Jared, so you got to come up to the mic.
Sorry.
Yes, just to add to what Steve said, one of the recommendations from the healthcare group was that would be moving to Aetna. And that would be going to another hospital system here in town, Memorial Hermann, and that would be a huge disruption to the employees. And we just didn't see the value, the committee didn't see the value in doing that. So that was one of the biggest items. Plus, there were a lot of other things they were offering as a package that you had to take the whole package deal that had a cost to it of about $4 million, actually about $5 million. So a very different offer, but the biggest deal was just the huge disruption with Aetna. We did not see that as when we showed them when we showed them side by side with Blue Cross and United, a huge disruption. So that was one of the biggest reasons.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. In our document also, you're showing total costs. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the 3.5 million?
Well, you've got total
You've got the
expected
fixed costs,
costs.
and then you have a claims number, and you've added that together. So what are you basing those projections?
Did you want to?
Okay. Yeah, so the fixed cost is based on United's cost to administer the plan. Keep in mind, Cigna is going to have to process runoff, so when 1/1 comes, any claims incurred prior to 1/1, Cigna is going to be responsible for paying those claims, and they're going to charge $608,000 estimated to do that. Now, United, one of the values they brought was they would give 2 months of admin at no cost to help offset that, so that was part of their offer. So there's the admin piece, and then you have the stop-loss coverage for your $450,000 specific stop-loss. And then the rest of the biggest piece is your claims. What we're estimating your claims to be based on the new network that you're getting, because keep in mind, the two things that were so big in this were what we did was a disruption analysis. So we took every provider that your folks went to last year, and we did a side-by-side with Cigna, well, with all of them, and we went from 81% to 95%, which is huge. The other side is 91% of your dollars went in network. We expect that to go up to about 96%. So when you combine those two, that's a huge differential. And so that claims number is what we estimate your claims to be. Actually, we think that's fairly conservative, but that's the way we are. So
Good.
I think we'll outperform that, but anyway, big pickup on the provider side.
Excellent, thank you for that explanation. All right, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry,
Question,
Mr. George, I missed.
We are done with this item, or?
Yes, we are finished with this item. Do you have another question?
I have a comment.
A comment.
See, I think I appreciate the administration thinking about changing the provider, and I talk to a lot of teachers, and I have a teacher in my household, and they all greatly appreciate it. And I tell you, people talk to doctors who accept Cigna plan. They don't even want to take it. I don't know why, but that's what I see. Personally, I feel this is a huge help for our employees. And I think they greatly appreciate this move, and I just wanted to applaud you all listen to the employees and taking this route without too much additional costs. And this help us to increase our employees' morale a lot, because you are listening to them. That make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George. All right, we're moving on now to 7B, which is local policy EIE. This is the policy regarding retention and promotion of 5th and 8th grade students relevant to testing. Does anybody have any questions on this? It was pretty clearly outlined, but it's on page 66.
I have one.
Yes.
Just at the bottom of the page, we say we're going to use other relevant academic information to make promotion and retention decisions for mathematics. What are those?
No, yeah, green light needs to be on. There you go.
We would consider report card grades, district assessments of curriculum, common formative assessments, and summative evaluations. We want to look at the child's performance and ensure that they're meeting criteria to meet promotion standards.
Okay, so all of those things would be looked at for every student?
Yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Mrs. Carabine? I think not. All right, moving on then to policy EIC local. That's starting on page 69. This is regarding academic achievement and class rank. And
we do have a very short presentation, but we do.
okay, I saw this PowerPoint, and as long as it doesn't have 27 slides, I'll let you go.
It's 26.
Yeah. Yank.
Yank.
It ain't happening.
Okay, are you ready?
We are so ready.
We realize the late hour. This particular topic is so very important to instruction in Fort Bend ISD that it does deserve at least a few minutes of time to really understand exactly what has been happening and what we are going to propose. So basically, we're looking at grade point average and a proposed revision to policy. If you'll notice there on that very first slide, I do want to clarify that our recommendation before the board is that as we present this to you, we would be looking at students who are going to be in the class of 2019, meaning that they would be ready to enter 8th grade. And one of the things that you might say is that we have a House Bill 5 going forward and that there's a connection to entering 9th grade. So in an ideal world, we would love to connect that and start this with entering 9th grade. If the board is amenable to that and wishes to push us in that direction, we're happy to go there. But to clarify why we are hesitant, currently we have 3,063 students who would be entering into the 9th grade. Of those 3,063, as of like today, 5,153 credits of high school have been earned.
Wow.
Say that again.
Over 5,000 credits in high school have been earned by 3,000 students. Now, you can take that some have earned 0, some have earned 1, some have earned 2, 3. But the bottom line is we have a lot of children that as we make a change have in 8th, mostly in 8th grade, some in 7th, already taken quite a few classes. And so therein lies our hesitation to make that perfect connection. So I wanted to just make that very clear. Dr. Garcia and Ginger Carabine and I are just going to kind of briefly walk you through kind of the what I will call the here's what it is, so what did we do, and then now what, okay? So if we look at the next slide, just briefly to share with you the history. What has happened in Fort Bend ISD? And from 2001, is it not moving? From 2001 to 2006, Fort Bend entered into a 3 academic level scale. So you can see there the terms academic, advanced, and honors pre-AP, AP, weighting on a 4, 5, and 6-0 scale. So therefore, our system right now in Fort Bend ISD would be considered on a 6-point scale. But in 2006, they changed from 3 levels to 2 levels, advanced and honors. Advanced really isn't advanced by the legal definition, if we were to look in Webster's of what advanced is. It really means on level. We are also going to change that name and begin to use the term on level so that it is very clear to the community and to the parents, to the kids, that this is exactly what we're talking about. So we have now a 5 and a 6, and as you notice, the 4 just sort of disappeared into no man's land. And so for all these years, we're operating on a 6.0 scale with 2 levels of academic course. And it really has made no sense. And it is time for us to get that in line with practice. So as we're going to move through, Ginger's going to share with you how we went about it, and Lupita will give you an example.
Okay. Knowing what Dr. Whitbeck just shared about the different levels and the changes and the discrepancies and the confusion, the so what part of this process was that we formed a comprehensive steering committee consisting of members from our curriculum department. We had the deputy superintendent involved, our assistant superintendents, and most importantly, principals, counselors, registrars, and teachers, as well as our technology team. We looked at this throughout the year, for the last 6 months especially. Sorry. Throughout the process, the committee determined to operate under 5 guiding principles, if you will. Most importantly, we wanted to serve all students in the most fair way that we could. We wanted to create a system so that our students and our parents and the college admissions officers could understand how we were operating in Fort Bend ISD. We wanted something that was completely accurate, mathematically accurate, and we wanted to have something that was aligned to reflect our challenging coursework. And also very important, we wanted to create some standards that would reflect the 2 levels of academic coursework that Dr. Whitbeck was referencing.
Okay. So now what? Now we bring forth some recommendations. Let me just say that historically, Texas has had difficulties with GPA system, and years ago, when Shirley Neely was with TEA, she was tasked with trying to standardize the GPA across Texas, and never was able to get that off the ground. There was a lot of discussion, and GPAs are a highly charged topic. Then Dr. Paredes with the Higher Education Coordinating Board was told to, now it's your turn, try to fix this. It didn't happen. So with this in mind, we didn't take this task lightly. So I wanted to kind of preface it. We did a lot of research before bringing forth a recommendation to you. We looked at some research by the National Association of Secondary School Principals. We looked at some good practices. And so we really did our homework, and the committee should be commended for that. The first task we had was we got together and came up with all the questions we wanted to know about GPA, everything, and played the devil's advocate. So we developed a template of questions with our questions and assigned it to several committee members, and over 15 districts were contacted about what GPA do you use, do you like it, do you not like it, what do you like about it, what would you change about it. So it's been a very extensive process. So we're happy now. Now what I'm going to discuss with you, what we're bringing forth. So we looked at numerous systems. I'm going to give you an example. Plano uses a 16-point system that always puzzles the college admissions people. They don't understand what a 16-point system is. But what we liked was we looked at several districts that were using the 100-point system. And those districts are North Side in San Antonio, Irving, Klein, Eanes, Alvin, Pflugerville, and Pearland, to name a few. So we looked at that system, and it really made sense to us because Texas mandates that the only grades that can be posted on a transcript have to be on a 100-point system. We're not like colleges. We don't give A's, B's, and C's. The state does not allow that. So we already have a natural system for averaging. I mean, we don't have to convert an A to a 4. We have a 90 or an 80 or 70. So we looked at it, and it made a whole lot of sense to us. So since students take courses, they take a combination of 1-semester courses and 2-semester courses. We would look at a 100-point system where we used all the semester averages so that a semester is equated to a semester and not a yearly average where 2 semesters are involved. We also felt that a 100-point system is what kids are used to seeing, both in the report cards and their transcripts. And so it would be an accurate reflection of what parents see and what students see of the cumulative work, which results in a much more accurate ranking class, which is what colleges are interested in. They're really more interested in what is the rank. When you put them from highest to lowest, where do they fall? And it's a system that's much more conducive to converting to a 4-point as opposed to, like, say, a 16-point or some other kind of system. So that's basically what we were looking at. So what does exactly a 100-point system mean, and what does that look like? I'm going to get to that in a minute, but we would not abandon. Our recommendation is not to abandon any kind of weighting system. We would continue to weight. And so in our last meeting, we expanded. In our last few meetings, we expanded our committee to bring in some teachers, pre-AP, AP teachers, and regular teachers, to ask them to propose what would you like to see in terms of weighting. And also keeping in mind to the fidelity of why we weight courses, and that is that it's to differentiate the rigor between one class and another. So with that in mind, the recommendation is that we continue to weight classes, advanced placement or AP, that are governed by the National Standards of College Board, and have an exam attached to it would be weighted by 10 points per semester. And I'll show you what that means. That means that we would add 10 points to the semester average that the student made. Pre-AP or honors classes would be weighted by 5 points, added to the semester. And we presently do not weight dual credit courses. However, we felt that we want to encourage more of our students. There's that level of student who would be very capable of being able to move towards the dual credit as opposed to the AP because they can have that credit with them when they finish the course. And then, of course, on-level coursework, which we used to call advanced, would be no additional weighting. Okay, let me just briefly show you, in this example, it's just listed some courses. Physics, for example, on level, what would be posted on a transcript would be 86, and that's what we would add, 86. If you notice English 3 AP, that's an AP course. Student makes a 94. That's exactly what you're going to see on the transcript, and so will the college admissions people. But when we add it, when we start adding and averaging, we would add the 10 points, which would make it 104. And the dual credit would be 5, 89. So what you see there are the grades that you would actually see on a transcript, and then what we've equaled it to is how many more points we would have. Then we would just add them all together and divide by the number of credits attempted. I think you'll see it better in the next not the next slide, but the next one. Sorry, it's so small, but go back to that one. There is just a simple transcript with all the grades that a student has taken in the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. Okay, if you move to the next one, what we did is a student would simply just go down the line and add all the semester averages. And I did it a little differently. I just went and counted for every pre-AP or honors course. I added 5, 10, 15, 20, however many there were, added at the bottom. If it was an AP, I went 10, 10, so it'd be 10, 20, 30, 40, however many they had, and added it to the total. So you just total them up, add them. You see at the bottom, 1,097, 1,081, 1,241 points. Comes to a total of 3,419 divided by 39 semesters, and that turns out to be an 87.666. I'll take a deep breath. Do you have any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
What's an example of an honors course versus a pre-AP?
Very, very, yeah, I've got it right here. Actually, we're looking at all those very closely. And let me explain. Presently, we have 43 honors courses. We don't call pre-AP, we used to call pre-AP honors, but we moved to pre-AP. And there are some honor courses, and some of the examples, the 43, 23 of those are academy-specific. Some of the other 20 are courses that are, the best example I can use is critical languages. Critical languages like Hindi, Arabic, they're not an AP course because AP hasn't moved in that direction. They're slowly moving that way. But say that a student took a level 3 of Arabic, then that would be considered to the rigor of an honors level course. We also have, I listed some of these, advanced biotechnology. It's not anything that's like an AP course, but, so we wouldn't call it pre-AP, but looking at the rigor, we would weight it by the 5 points. And there's numerous scientific research and development, some of the independent study courses, but we are doing a complete study of each one of those courses to make sure that they do stand up to the rigor level of the extra 5 points.
Okay. I appreciate that, but on the foreign languages, keep in mind that not all of our campuses offer Arabic and Hindu. So I would not want a non-academy student at the same school to be disrupted because obviously they don't want to take Arabic. Does that make sense? So if you're doing an honors course, well, I'm thinking now like Spanish 3 and Spanish 4 is AP, I thought.
Well, Spanish 4 is AP and Spanish 5 is AP.
And Spanish 3 is pre-AP.
Right.
Spanish 3 is, yeah, if we could get some, I just want to make sure, again, I'm big with the equity issue on these grade points and the kids know how to work it, especially with the academies going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, you will find, as I move through this, that this is a system that is, I feel is one of the best systems, and I'll explain that.
Yeah. I agree with it. I just wondered what the honors courses were.
Well, we can't call it pre-AP if there's no AP course, so if we don't have Arabic in the AP, but we still have a level 3 or 4, we would want to look at that. Another example is we don't have French 5. French 4 AP is as high as it goes, and so French 5, We do offer that at one of our campuses, so if a student were to take that, we'd give them honors credit because it's a much higher level.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I like to see the dual credit.
Thank you.
That would be good.
So looking at this average, what we would be using to rank students would be the actual 100% system, like the 87.666. It's the most accurate system. Occasionally, colleges and scholarships foundations will ask us a 4-point. So what we would do is we would take the 100-point system and convert it to a 4-point. And there's several ways of doing this, but the formula that I've put out there, as a matter of fact, this is even more accurate than the formula that College Board puts on their website. College Board recommends that you take between 95 and 100, give them a 4, and lower than that, give them, so they kind of go in ranges. But if you take the 100-point GPA divided by 20 and subtract 1, you are going to get a weighted 4.0. Because if you, like I pointed out, 100 divided by 20 is 5. So therefore, if a student has over 100 points, even when we subtract the 1, they will have a weighted 4-point, as opposed to everybody gets 4. It's 100 and higher, everybody's a 4. This way, it is weighted. So it's a very mathematically accurate system. The other thing I want to say from a former counselor's perspective, and having worked in Northside for 15 years where we use the system, it also is extremely conducive to doing very good guidance and direction with our students. Because it's very difficult for our counselors right now to explain our grade point system to parents and students, especially when there's a whole missing number that just kind of doesn't exist. And I found it very easy to work with my seniors who came in panicked. I've got to drop chemistry AP because I'm afraid it's going to bring down my GPA. And I would just explain to them that they already had 48 established semesters and that one semester average could not significantly, mathematically, impact those 48 unless they made a 0 or a 20. So I said, well, I want to make an A. Well, even if you made an 80, you're only going to lose about 0.14. And it's very easy, and hopefully if we go to this system, we're going to have some little mathematical formulas for our counselors and do great training, because the whole purpose is to have kids be well-balanced in their approach to what you take. You just brought up some concerns that are concerns as well. Not feel the need that they have to pressure themselves. Right now, a 5 is anywhere from 100 to a 90. So a kid may say, well, all I care about is making a 90, and then the kid who makes 100 doesn't get a whole lot more than the 5. Thank you. That concludes, unless you have any questions.
Okay, well, with all this, it's necessary that we revise EIC local policy. So what we submitted to you in your packet is a draft form. So based on any feedback that you give to us tonight or later in the week, we will certainly take that into consideration, as well as looking what TASB has to say. So we will prepare a final version of EIC local for you to consider for approval at next Monday's board meeting. So if you don't have questions tonight, if you need to think about this, feel free to reach out to us throughout the week. And also, we just want you to know that throughout this entire process, we didn't take this lightly. We had a lot of people involved, and we certainly were very realistic about the pros and cons, and I'll start with the cons. Some principals were concerned that this new system would lead to even more competition, students competing point by point. Now a 95 is a lot better than a 90. So we realized that, and we contemplated that whole process. We also realized another negative to this is that we'll have 2 different operating systems. We can't change the game for current high school students because they're too far in it. It just absolutely would not work and wouldn't be fair. So that means we have to let those kids age out, and we'll have the other ones coming on. But this is not that uncommon. Anytime you make a change, you'll have different operating systems and different cohorts. So we're prepared to address that, and we've worked with our technology team. The positives, we've kind of already shared. We think this is very clear and easy to understand. What we realize is a lot of our high school students and parents and even some of our staff can't explain what we're currently doing. So we want this to be simple and easy to understand, and we want the students to be able to calculate their GPA, at a moment's notice if they needed to. Again, we wanted some operating principles that kept us true to this process. We felt that we stayed true to that process. We wanted this to match those academic levels before when we had the 3 and we dropped to 2 and never made the adjustment. This will finally align. We think this is an excellent counseling tool. Again, because we have a complicated system, our counselors struggle when they guide students to take the more rigorous courses. And so they struggle to keep kids in those courses. They want to drop, like Dr. Garcia was saying, when they think there's going to be a significant impact. With this new system, we can show you know, a 79 versus an 80 is 1 point with this. Before, a 79 from an 80 was 10 points difference. So this is going to be significant, and we think it'll help us maintain those kids in the pre-AP and AP courses. And then lastly, this will be aligned to the college admissions process and our scholarship providers and the NCAA. Right now, the NCAA calls me a lot because they're very confused with the 6-point, 5-point system, and they're wondering whatever happened to the 4-point. It just doesn't align and make much sense to them. So.
Okay. All right, so in closing, we'll be asking for your approval for EIC Local Monday night, and know that we will be working with Skyward for the adjustments and the trainings that we need in order to coordinate the systems. We'll be communicating with the staff and the students and parents, targeting with those incoming 8th graders, and that we're very excited because we think that in the long run, this is extremely accurate, and it is a true picture of a child's academic achievement.
I have a quick comment.
Yes, Mr. George.
You said it's simple, but I'm still digesting what this is all about. So, is this in alignment with, did you check with other school districts? Is anybody else is doing this kind of system? Any input on that area?
Yes, the districts that I mentioned, just to name a few, Northside ISD, and they have about almost 90,000 students. Irving, with about 40,000, Klein, Eanes, which is a highly competitive school district, Alvin, Pflugerville, and Pearland.
Yeah. There are many others. These are just the ones that we vetted thoroughly.
The ones that we, right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Could you provide us a list of the, those courses, those 43 different pre-AP courses that you were talking about?
Yes, absolutely, we can do that.
Do you mean honors? When you said pre-AP,
Yeah.
do you mean honors?
Yeah.
Yes. And do understand that is almost a separate issue for us as we look at the curriculum and what we're offering. We just can't stop it immediately, so now it's woven into our proposal.
Okay, I had one question in the policy itself. It talked about, let's see, what page is it on? It's the first page of the policy. It talks about the class ranking. Class rank will be calculated once a year in September. Even though we're doing even though there's going to be semester credit or semester scoring, I guess, or semester included in the GPA is going to be semester by semester. It's top of the page, wrong way. They stop.
One of 3?
Okay. What you see before you, we wrote in because we were fixing to write the new GPA system, and we didn't even have the one we have right now in the board policy.
Right.
So we thought, well, we better tell them what we've got right now because we still have students in high school. So that was one of the issues. Now, we calculate the actual rank at the end, the GPA, and the rank is calculated at the end of the sophomore year, which is called a 4-semester GPA and rank. The one that kids apply to colleges with is called the 6-semester GPA and rank, which is done at the end of the junior year, and that's what they'll be putting on the applications. And then the colleges will want a follow-up transcript with a 7th semester GPA and rank. And that is also common practice that we got from the National Association of Secondary School Principals, that 98% of the colleges that were polled won at the 7th semester GPA and rank. So we do give them at the very first ranking class will be at the end of their sophomore year. And then the second one will be at the end of their junior year, and then we'll do a mid-senior year rank. And then we'll do one that holds for graduation purposes at the end of the 9 weeks on the second semester of the senior year.
Okay. And those are all listed in here, or just that?
In regs. They're listed in our regulations.
Okay.
And we try to stress to kids that there's a big difference between your GPA and your ranking class. A grade point average is how you've competed against your own best self, and a ranking class is how you've competed against others, and it's very important to compete with yourself as well.
Just for your information, just these last few weeks, we discovered that we were not running a June class and rank for juniors. And they had had theirs, in January, representing 5 semesters, but nothing representing 6. And when you do early application for college, as I just have been doing with my own child, they require 6. And we had some parents bring that to our attention, and we have worked within various departments, and our registrars have been wonderful working with us, and we were able to do a recent class rank that will give them the opportunity for the 6. But from now on, we'll be doing that in June. And then
Dr.
again,
Whitber,
September
we were doing it, but not till September, when all the summer school grades came in, because we offer a lot of pre-AP and AP in summer. We were doing it in September, but some of the
Yes.
kids wanted to get their applications in August.
Yeah, before school starts. Those are the smart kids.
All our kids are smart kids.
So are those ranking class available on Skyward, or do they have to only get that through the registrar? Is that only available through the registrar or counselor?
That's a good question. How do we
Lisa
distribute the
Mirza
ranking
is
class?
right there. I don't know. Is that available?
Right, we don't post it on the transcript and we're ready to release it. I mean, it's posted on the transcript, but you can also get it, as she said, on Family Access.
Okay, I just wondered if you just did a 6th semester for the juniors, those who just finished their junior year, that would be available to them in Family Access at this time.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. And then I had another question on the, this is related to the policy, I think, for the GPA exempt courses that we talked about. We did this policy earlier. Is it, I was a little confused about the language here. Is this the same language we had before, or is this a change? I'm on page 2 of 3. Specific courses shall be listed annually.
Yes, and in our regs, those courses are listed to include athletics, fine arts, some CTE that are pathways such as ag, and those are listed out.
Okay.
And they are also, if you remember, brochures that each school has and the counseling's office has, so that people can be very clear. We don't really have a group of kids yet ready to take advantage till they get to that junior level.
Right, but they might want to be planning ahead if they.
Absolutely.
If they didn't, instead of dropping out of band, we want them to stay in band.
Absolutely.
That's the concept.
I think between the work that we've done on the GPA exempt and then with having a very accurate GPA, I think we're doing some really, really positive things for kids to encourage them to stay involved. And we know colleges really want the whole picture. They're not just looking for the grades. And so I think we've kind of balanced that with the accuracy.
Okay. And we just, I guess the main thing that hasn't been addressed yet, but I know it will be because it's on your long list, is the, and this is near and dear to Ms. Bailey's heart, the number of high school courses available to middle school students and when those are available. And, someplace in this policy it talked about being, you, in your presentation, you talked about this wanting to be a fair system for all students. And I think that that's our goal too. And we realize we can't fix everything at once, but we want you to continue working towards a fair system. And that piece of it, addressing that middle school course availability is a piece that is.
Yes, absolutely. We're on it.
Yes. The
Glad-
steering committee addressed this conversation, led us down many paths, including that.
Right.
So we'll be in a really good position as we start to look at these things in a deeper level.
Excellent. We are happy about that. Thank you for your hard work and all the time and hours of meeting and coordinating everybody's ideas and research to get this all together. And again, pulled together in a very succinct and precise way, and we really appreciate that. Any other questions? All right. Woo-hoo. Now, we're all the way to D. But D is the minutes, and I know Mrs. Kaiser's worked hard on those minutes, so do we have any questions on the minutes? No, we don't. Okay, so really, look at us skipping on to E, purchasing. Michelle Leach, jumping to the front row. Let's look at these. I'm going to get to the right page. Oh, no, I'm going to have to do it differently. This is starting on page 118. And my fingers are too big. All right, so the first thing is the ACT Inc. with the online access to curriculum, industry training, and certification in appropriate career and technical education courses. Any questions on this? Is this something we're using now, or is this a new thing, new service?
This is new.
Yes.
It's
Yes, I believe
related to
this is
college and
new.
career readiness.
Okay. Any questions? All right.
Just one quick one. How does this compare, and please excuse my ignorance on this, how does this compare to Aspire, the test that we give? How does this particular tool, or how does it work with that?
Let me defer to.
Dr. Garcia is the perfect person. Where did she go?
Oh, Meredith is here, too.
Oh, Meredith,
Wasn't it
I'm
this
sorry, I
year?
didn't see Meredith. Oh, there you are, Meredith. Sorry.
Anymore at all? Okay.
We have to use a microphone if we're going to talk, because there's people who are watching us and want to know what you're saying.
Aspire is an ACT product, but we're not using Aspire, which the name was changed. We did Explore last year in the 8th grade, and we did Plan. We are keeping Plan this year, and then we'll be looking very closely at Aspire, but it's a tool that has to be taken online. To be able to test all the students in one day would be, not possible. But it is, what Meredith's about to tell you is a great tool as well, and it is an ACT product.
Good evening. The ACT Work Keys is specific to measuring soft skills and job related skills specifically that we would be teaching through CTE courses that would apply across the board. So what we're proposing is that we provide Career Ready 101, which is the curriculum base that we'll use throughout all of our CTE courses, and it meets TEKS that are aligned with offering students individual kind of opportunities to look forward to the future and what they can gain from different employability skills. And then at the end, they would be earning an industry certification. And our goal is to work towards that industry certification as being a measurement tool for our pathways in all of our CTE. The students would be taking applied mathematics, locating information, and reading for information, as well as the soft skills. Those industry certifications are accepted nationwide and recognized nationwide.
How is this going to tie into House Bill 5 endorsements?
Absolutely. These specific tests would be an industry certification which relates to one of the House Bill 5 requirements for students to have the opportunity to earn industry certification. Right. So this is a significant piece on House Bill 5 in that direction. Our plan is that we bring this in starting next year. We would do something a little bit different for the first couple of years. We would administer the test. The students can take it every 6 months. So with this first incoming group, they'll get the Career Ready 101 curriculum, and then we would administer the test at the end of the year so we can track them and measure how well we're doing. After we get through the first 4 years, we would not be testing every single year. It would just be this particular incoming class that we would want to check and follow along to see how well we're doing. It does not indicate that a student has to take 4 years in a particular pathway. If a student enters, let's say, an ag class as a fourth-year student, and maybe that was not the path that they took. They want to go into vet tech, so they took some health science courses, but they take a fourth-year ag class. They would still have the opportunity to earn the industry certification.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, next item is Turn It In. Any questions on Turn It In? All right, professional skill service providers. Anybody have a question? Looking around, I'm seeing none. I'm going to keep
Ms.
going.
James?
Yes,
I just
sorry.
want to inform the board that when you see this rewritten, we will have added one more provider, and that is Texana Children's Center for Autism. It is a day facility, and it was just approved last week.
Not on this item.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one? Oh,
Yeah,
I
this-
apologize, thought you were, I apologize. On my wrong page.
That's all right, we'll get
Well,
to
then
that.
I've already covered
It's
what's
down
next.
in one of the
Okay, never
farther
mind.
letters down the page, and I know it's hard to...
I'm
It's
sorry.
hard to keep up with it all. I'm struggling as well, but, okay. Next one is the, I'm sorry.
Regional 11.
Sorry?
Region 11, that's where we're at?
Yes, we're Region 11, Discovery Education. Did you want to say something about it, Michelle, or?
No,
You
I'm
just,
sorry, I
you just
thought
wanted to help
had
me.
lost your spot
Thank
there.
you. I'm pretty overwhelmed in paper here. So this is curriculum support, and I think it's what we've been using to a certain degree, right? And it talks about, because it talks about the number of uses and things like that.
Correct.
Any questions? Yes, sorry, Mr. Rosenthal.
How widely is it used?
I knew you would ask that, Mr. Rosenthal. I've been watching.
Should we talk about atomic
Yes,
learning?
and I did, in fact, I knew that because of atomic learning. And I sent out to some of our high schools, middle schools, and elementaries. And it's used very widely in elementary. Some of our middle schools use it more than others. It's used very widely and creatively at Baines, for instance. Some at Sugar Land Middle. Mr. Brogan said he really feels that we could do a better job of informing teachers of all the capabilities of it. And it is used at high school level some. It is for Ms. James, when you taught, you may have seen it under United Streaming. It's the same company, different name, and more expanded product. If you were teaching about photosynthesis, for example, there would be a video you could show to demonstrate photosynthesis. And
When I taught, we used film strips.
And just last night, I was reading the District Administrator magazine, and there actually is an article where they reference the discovery learning and how much it helps the second language learners, ELL, and I can understand that because a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I'm not sure that we've really marketed that use in our district. So we want to be sure it is being widely used, but it could be even more widely used. Would you like specific numbers on that? I just got some qualitative data.
I don't know. Does anybody else want any numbers on it?
We do have the number of logins and so forth from last year in the board item. We don't have the creative uses that some of our teachers, particularly like Baines, have used, but we could produce them.
That was going to be my question, is how are we using it? Because you mentioned ELL, so one of my questions was going to be in the area of special education. Are we utilizing in that area? Because for the same reasons.
I don't think it is widely used in ELL or special ed. I think most of the use is in science and social studies. And we need to promote that, but it could use all of it. And it's a district-wide license. Anyone can use it. We just need to provide PD and make sure all of our teachers are aware of it and how to use it.
So that was going to be my question, is that, so have we done an audit of all of these tools, particularly these kinds of online tools that we are providing for our teachers, our students, our parents, I mean, sort of like the atomic learning, to see if there's overlap, what overlap there is, and then how are we promoting that? How are we promoting these things for use, not just in our regular population, but in our specials populations, and how can we better utilize these things? And the reason I ask this is because I didn't go back and do an analysis, but you know, we get these types of things for approval on a regular basis. And some of it seems to me to be, isn't this the same thing we just looked at, or similar? Or isn't this doing, serving a similar purpose as something we just looked at last month?
This is our only streaming contract that we have. And as you can see by the logins, it's widely used. Can we promote it even more so? Yes. And the more I read about it, the more. Back in the day when I was a principal, it was purely streaming, but it does have even more capability now for students to create video and manipulate it some.
Well, let me interject, because yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of part of our ongoing program evaluation as we move forward. I mean, as Grail said a minute ago, we got a long list. And our goal is to start, we're trying to strengthen when we come forward, but as we ask the board to approve things, we're going to start doing a better job of really studying what are the resources. Because one of the things we talk a great deal about is we're spending a lot of money on resources. Are we getting value for them? Are we using them with fidelity? So the answer is yes, all of this will be subject to program evaluation so that we can, with assurance, provide assurance to the board and the community that everything we're spending money on is being used well and we're getting value out of it.
So that's great, because that's my question. And because I would love to see, maybe a list of saying, here are all the tools and resources that we have, and here is the purpose that they are serving inside the classroom, outside of the classroom, so that we can see if there's overlap, maybe trim some of that out. What is it that teachers like? What don't they like? How can we best meet the needs? And then, because I think, me personally, as a board member, I would feel better about approving these things, knowing that, kind of being able to see that sort of plan put in place. And then what are we going to do to make sure that our teachers know that these resources are out there? Because I have asked some of them, and some of them just don't know. I can say, oh, we approved this or that, and there are some that look at me with this blank, oh, I didn't, and I don't know why that is, but I do think we can do a better job of that. And having a daughter that is in the specials population, I know that there are times when I go in and say, well, can we do this or that as we're modifying or accommodating? And there are some teachers that don't know where to go to get that at times. So, because when I read this, I thought, oh, well, this is perfect. This is a great resource, but I'm not sure it's being used.
It's a long-standing contract that our district's had for a long time, but I don't know that we have promoted its use to the fullest. And we will, through program evaluation and through our curriculum writing and updating, we will continue to promote that.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree with and I support Kristen is saying, because when we had the atomic learning software for approval, and it mentioned something like we have 115 this is the word says approximately 115 usage a year in a district where we have around maybe 71 plus around 9,000 employees. It's more than about 80,000 people. Average a person using once a year. And I talked to some teachers about it. They never, they heard of it, but they're not using. And I think it is moving forward, as we are saying. We like to see, we are putting the resources out there, how many people are using. And also teaching our teachers using free resources available, like Google Doc. And when I went to the technology conference, it was a phenomenal presentation there, but I was just sitting there and wondering how many teachers are exclusively using that, these free resources out there. So we're doing a better job in explaining, having some learning or teaching them how to use these resources, and having, like Kristen said, some kind of a data showing how many people are using this. It will be a really helpful way to monitor what is happening. Also, next time around we'd come for, a renewal, we could see if it's worth keeping something like that. And what I'm trying to say is that I really support what Krishn's saying, because I have the same concern, or I have the same feeling about some of these resources. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. George.
I have one other comment.
Okay, please, Mr. Rosenthal.
Welcome to the board.
Okay.
I have this dream every once in a while that I'm going to open up my agenda and see something that says the administration does not wish to approve or want you not to approve something. Hasn't happened yet.
That's a dream, Mr. Rosenthal. That's a dream. Okay, but we like the idea of aligning our resources with our excellent curriculum that we are working on, and that and then having no gaps in resources in our curriculum so that our teachers and our courses are supported and our students have the best opportunities.
One last comment, and I'll make it
Okay.
quick. And we may already do this, but do we have a one-stop?
That sounds like a question, not a
Okay,
comment.
so
Go
it's sort of
ahead.
a comment, but if we would have a one-stop shopping place where teachers could go and say, if I'm having this problem or if I need this, then this resource is out there. I mean, do we have that in place where they can, search? Okay, thank you.
The answer is yes, there's nods all around. Okay. Good, because we don't want to have to try to get another microphone to work. All right, moving on to HP Support Service Agreement Renewal. Any comments?
No comments for Mr. Pham.
No comments for Mr., we're letting him off the hook.
No.
He's ducking in his chair.
He's got the hardest job. He's got to do that skyward. He's got to do everything.
Yeah. Yes, he does. All right. Electrical supplies and plumbing supplies. Okay, they're not going to ask. I'm going to ask a question then. I don't even know what their question is, but if I know, sorry. I'm wondering about the cost increase. Why? Why is it double? I wrote double the cost, question mark.
Yeah, we're just simply trying to do more things in-house, and we wanted to have that flexibility to be able to do it.
Okay.
But also says that we expect to offset that increase by a decrease in outside vendors.
Right.
Just seemed like a lot. It's that much more.
It's an estimate.
He doesn't want to have to come back to us in 6 months and do this again and explain why he underestimated the first time.
That's all right, they got a contingency on that.
That's right.
All right, you can't pick on Max, okay?
I'm not
I gotta
picking on
defend
anybody.
Max
It's all
here.
equal.
Okay, he has a
All
hard job
equal.
too. He's got to get all those portables ready.
He's doing a great job on
By
that, by
August
the way.
25th.
He's doing
That would be a perfect
And
example of
Mr.
where
Long,
we've
he
used
has to get the
electric supplies.
computers in there.
All right, there we go. Any more questions? Plumbing? You're good. Okay, janitorial, chemical, proportioning systems, products, and related items. I read this and I thought, we're not going to have soap anymore. It's like, wow, how are we going to, what, poor kids? Nobody's going to be able to wash their hands.
That's for the parents to supply.
Right, with their box of Kleenex. All right, moving on. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired. Can you tell? HVAC rental equipment. We're going to be ahead of the game. We're going to have stuff ready to go when we have breakdowns
Right.
or natural disasters. Okay, any questions on that? Look at that, we're on to F already. Donations exceeding $10,000 is item F. 2 PTAs, working hard. And as we've said before, we appreciate these PTAs and their hard work, and we worry about the schools who don't have the PTAs to raise close to $50,000 for mathematics lab and literacy library. So it causes us concern. Item G, investment strategy. Is this new, Mr. Bassett, this investment strategy from what we've done before?
No, ma'am, it's the same. The only change, we moved up one paragraph from earlier in the document, from later in the document to earlier, and we added Miss Dina Edgar as one of our investment officers.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have, is that a blue line version? Oh, there it is, okay. All right, I missed it. I must have scrolled through that page a little too quickly. Any questions about this? All right, on to H. Underwriters to be utilized for future bond debt issuance. This is on, we have to scroll through a lot of pages, this is on page 161.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bassett, are each one of these firms listed to be used as the senior manager?
No, not necessarily. I mean, what'll happen is that whenever we do come to the board.
That's the pool?
This is just the pool.
Okay. Thank you.
Keep going. I'm getting the keep it going, keep it going. All right, uncollectible property tax accounts. These are things that are, that have been either 10 years for personal property, or 20 years for personal property, or 10 years for businesses, I guess. And, no, that's backwards. No, real property, 20 years, personal property, 10 years. Any questions? Okay, on to J, which is the residential treatment service providers. Dr. Whitbeck, this is where you wanted to add somebody, you said for next. We want to add you to the list, no. You were telling us that there was an additional person we would see next time.
Texana Children's Center for Autism.
Okay. And do we need to approve, this is a question I had, do we need to approve an amount in this, or we're just approving these facilities and there's no, because there's dollar amounts listed down in the summary, but it's we do it as needed?
Yes, there's already part of the budget set aside for this. And then it's as needed based on ARD.
Okay, but it
Don-
doesn't
Don
fall in
Carlson
the
is here.
aggregate? No. Got it. Okay. Then moving on, K is the affiliation agreement with HBU. And that, I believe, if my recollection, was some nursing students. Clinical education experience for students enrolled in nursing programs. Do you have any questions on that one? All right, then memorandum of understanding between the school district and the Tri-County Child Development Council, Inc. One involves the child nutrition portion, and one involves just the service itself. Now, is that right? Delivery for Head Start programs, including food service with Ridgemont Early Childhood Center. And then the other was Head Start, Early Head Start at designated campuses, and those were listed, 2 or 3 campuses, I believe.
I would add, there will be a couple of minor changes to that agreement for when it comes back next week. Even today, there were still some issues from Head Start wanting to make changes, but there's nothing major. We'll point that out when we finish the agenda.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Brady.
To my understanding, there's just not, we can't get together on an agreement, is that what it is? They agreed to one thing and?
Well, we're together now. I mean, it was worked out late today. There were
Okay.
several little pieces that we're still navigating, but we're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item M is the memoranda of agreement for the Air Force Junior ROTC programs at Dulles, Elkins, Kempner, and Marshall. I think there were some changes. What's that? This is the existing programs, but there were some changes in the agreement between the school district and the, in this case, Air Force, about how the program was to be, I guess, administered. And so this is just updating those agreements at those 4 schools. These schools all have this program already, and it's just an update in the agreement, is my understanding.
Could you explain why you have that comment there about so that Dulles High School may continue to offer it?
He means that all of the schools, each one is listed separately. So that one is for Dulles, and then the next page is for Elkins.
Oh, I see.
And the next page is Kempner, and the next, this is how, when I was trying to get him to get from A through Z down to some more manageable number, this is one we combined.
And you succeeded in confusing me.
All I did is confuse the whole thing. We could have left it to Z, and then we could have laughed about it all night. All right, are we good? Okay, moving on, in the memorandum of understanding between the City of Missouri City and Fort Bend ISD, this was similar, I guess, to the agreement we did with the, was it the City of Sugar Land last month? Sorry, county, sorry. Any questions for Chief? He's ready, he's got a microphone. Okay, we're letting him off the hook. You're off the hook. Okay, the 3-year waiver for participation in the teacher data portal. Do we have any questions on that? Go ahead, Mrs. Bailey.
This is something we've been doing, correct?
I know I'm
Because
going quickly.
it's the first time I've seen it, so it's just something we've been doing.
Yes, and Ginger, do you wish to, there's Thomas, yeah, that's right. I was like, which one of y'all?
Yes, we're renewing a 3-year waiver.
Thank you.
All right.
This is because we have a more sophisticated system with PCG than the state requires. It's actually a good thing.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry, I just had to read it again.
One thing we're doing well. All right, stop. Oh, yeah. We have to end these meetings earlier, Dr. Dupree.
It's up to you.
I tried so hard. I am trying. I'm like accelerating through these items. I'm already to R. All right, we have a job order contract with LMC Corporation for security vestibule and replacement of exterior doors at Dulles Elementary School. This is a similar thing to something, correct me if I'm wrong.
P and Q.
Oh, darn it. Okay, P, sorry. P, the PDOS appraisers list, but we don't even have it.
No, but you will for next week.
Okay. There'll be a PDOS appraisers list coming to you next week. You can read it. And then we can discuss it and approve it, in theory. The review proposed alternate approver for TEA Teal accounts and primary request submitter designee for TEA Secured Environment T's accounts.
Well,
Someone to do your work?
Lisa can talk about that, but yes, that's basically what it is.
Well,
What
actually-
this, I am signed up as the approver. I'll approve on anything that goes to the TEA. And so we've got a member of Lisa Merz's staff in Information Services that will be able to go in on my behalf and look and tell me when things are needing my approval. And then in an emergency situation, they'll also be able to approve things if I'm unavailable to do so.
All right, do we have any questions about that?
Did I get that right?
She did. Excellent.
This is to help Dr. Dupree.
And he needs all the help he can get, we know that.
It's really to help staff so things don't sit out there waiting for my approval and I
Right,
don't
so
get
your
to it.
backlog doesn't get too long.
It's someone to pester me to make sure I
There
get
we
it
go.
done.
That's correct.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you very much. Now, we're to the job order contract with LMC Corporation for the security vestibule and replacement exterior doors at Dulles Elementary School. Is this a project that we had done or agreed to part of it, and then we have added a new part to this? No.
Yes, ma'am. Back in, it was in a 2007 bond project, originally listed project back in '07. And then in March of this year, it was a 2007 bond project. And then in 2008, the board approved JOC as the method of procurement. And then in March of this year, y'all approved a budget amendment to add a security vestibule at Dulles. And so staff combined those into one project, so we touched the campus one time instead of fixing the exterior doors and then going back and doing a security vestibule, because that just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so we're doing it all at once, and the sidewalk too?
Yes, ma'am, and the sidewalk, I know that kind of sticks out, but there are some sidewalks that aren't compliant with ADA accessibility. And so our thought process there was, we don't need to put in some new doors that aren't accessible.
Good.
And so we're taking out any hazards or obstacles.
Ramps that are too steep, or adding ramps if needed.
And steps.
And steps.
I know the principal and The parents are very excited.
Yes, Mr. Thompson, we've spoken.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that one? Okay. The next one is S, which is the proposed payment to Fort Bend MUD 134C for water and sewer connections for elementary school 46. I'm in favor of water and sewer connections at elementary school 46.
Especially sewer.
Yeah, and water for that matter. I'm all in favor. Okay, any other questions on that one? What's that? We could save some money. We might, but it'd cause some problems too. All right, next one is the electric easement with CenterPoint Energy for elementary school 47. Let's do it. What other future easements are expected for elementary school 47? Because this authorizes the superintendent to execute this one and future.
Yes, ma'am. This one brings the power down the east side of the property. And it will service not only, there you go on the screen, it will service not only the school, but it goes beyond our property to service the home south of the district. And so once we site that building, there'll be another easement that goes from that line to the school where it actually attaches to the school. So there would be an actually attachment type easement that goes from that easement to the building.
Okay, so this is referencing only easements for electricity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, because all the sewer and water easements have already been done previously in the last couple of months.
Okay, the phrase in this line was, "and future easements related to this project," so there wasn't a clarification that it was just electrical, that's why I was asking that. Yeah.
Put the word electrical in there next.
Thank you, thank you. That would be a great clarification. All right, and what you've all been waiting for, item U. Yes. Our board needs a delegate and an alternate to serve at the TASB Annual Delegate Assembly at TASA TASB Conference, which is the last weekend in September. I know that's all on your calendars. You're all going to be there. I know Mr. Rice is going to be there because he is one of the directors for TASB. Okay, so I did this last year as the delegate, and I would be willing to do it again unless someone else would like the opportunity.
I was going to ask if you wanted to do it.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Would you like to be the alternate?
Sure.
All right.
Second.
Okay, excellent. See you there, if not sooner. All right, now we are ready for our audience items. Mrs. Porter, what do we have in the way of audience items? Thank you. Wow. Do you have anything to say, Officer Ontiveros? Okay.
Are we going?
All right, we have 5 speakers, 3 minutes each to speak. Mrs. Bailey, are you ready? 5 speakers.
Okay.
3 minutes, and we have 15 minutes allotted.
Okay.
So they have 3 minutes each.
Okay. I got it.
And we're ready. So the idea is for them to speak on the agenda items that we've discussed tonight, so we can hear from our audience their thoughts or opinions, and so we're ready to begin that now. And the first speaker is Lucy Robertson. Thank you for staying.
I'm going to make this brief. I'd like to speak to the boundary study and the feeder pattern realignment. Facilities make up the lion's share of the proposed bond, and we all know that the district needs new construction, permanent additions and renovations as a matter of urgency. But that is only of value if we have the right seats in the right places. The background information proving that necessity and grounded in hard facts came from the many hours of hard work put in by the Facility Steering Committee. However, that same committee was also committed to the necessity for a boundary study and feeder pattern realignment, starting at the elementary level and as a matter of priority. The boundary and feeder realignment may not substantially impact the bottom line need, but it may change priorities. It seems like you guys are in the same situation as the steering committee was in. The bulk of the groundwork was done before we received the most up-to-date demographic information. The PASA study didn't substantially change the overall picture, but it did show substantial shifts within the planning district. Likewise, the boundary study and feeder pattern realignment could change the seat requirements by planning areas, and honestly, based on what was originally proposed by the committee, it probably will. Hence why it's such an important part of the committee's overall recommendation. I'm encouraged that the district is discussing boundary policy, but like the steering committee, you need all the facts. And you need that information before you start spending new bond money. I realise that the facility plan was adopted by the board in principle and not as a plan of action, but you're still missing some of the most important information that will help you to define the real need in the district. I, for one, would like to see a firm timeline for a boundary study and feeder realignment to be accomplished so that we can all feel confident that the proposed bond will be of help to the children, teachers and parents in our areas of greatest need, and also so that we can know that that relief is being provided in the most fiscally responsible manner possible. None of this is easy, and I thank the board for your diligence in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson. All right, Mrs. Waschenfelder, you're next. Thank you, too, for staying this evening.
So glad to be here. Good evening, President James, members of the board, and Dr. Dupree. My name is Carrie Waschenfelder. I'm President of Fort Bend Employee Federation, representing 1,864 members who are employees and work throughout the district. There's not one campus or work site without a union member. So when I say I've heard from my members about serious issues under our current healthcare plan administered by Cigna, the comments come from all points across the district. It was clear over the last 2 years that Cigna was not a success story when over 60% of our members registered dissatisfactions with our current plan. Ms. Glenda McCall will enumerate later a list of the troublesome features of the plan. It seemed that Cigna was missing an employee link. There was no reliable call center for medical issues, no ombudsman to handle appeals, no high alert feature to customer service that identified stagnant cases that required hands-on resolution. And no one could see a cost-benefit reason for the biometric screening. Where were the supposed savings, or was this simply a scam to throw sick people overboard? That's when our members thought it was better to sink Cigna. So with the announcement that we would be considering a move to United Healthcare, everyone felt a great pressure lock release as everyone sighed with relief. We're going back to United Healthcare. Did you hear? If there is a J.D. Powers Award for high performance, it would go to United Healthcare. Now, we ask you to remember the very real issues. They're not automatically gone just because we put Cigna in dry dock. The issues remain, and they must be resolved through better administration and hopefully through UHC. We hope that each of these enumerated concerns is addressed, and now that we have sunk Cigna, that we can move on with a company that seems to care. At the end of the day, employees can give us the 100% commitment we expect if they know that the district is equally committed to offering quality health care for themselves and their family members. 10,000 employees and family members deserve a safe haven from the worries of living with an inadequate health care plan.
30 seconds.
Let's get it right so that employees feel trust in the words United Healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Washingfelder. Glenda McCall?
Good evening, Dr. Dupree and distinguished members of the board. My name is Glenda McCall, and I'm a special education teacher, bilingual special education teacher at E.A. Jones, a campus representative for AFT, and a member of the Cigna Healthcare Plan. Today, I want to address specific issues related to our Cigna plan and to solidify her agreement with the recommendation to move to UHC. Prior to becoming a teacher, I served as a human resources professional for 17 years, concentrating my efforts on contracting affordable health care insurance coverage. I had the opportunity to visit customer service facilities of some of the top administrators in the country, including Cigna and United Healthcare. In comparing these two particular administrators, both presented cost-cutting measures and significantly reduced the cost to the employer, but utilized very different approaches. Cigna focused sharing the cost of the plan with the employees. This reduced the cost of the plan for the employer, but puts more of the cost on the employee. For example, costs could be reduced by charging employees for services performed outside of the doctor's office, in addition to the copay for the office visit. UHC, on the other hand, proposed that savings to the employer were in the deep discounts negotiated with the providers and establishing and maintaining timely and consistent payments. The relationships that UHC established reduced cost to the providers by reducing administrative cost, reduced cost to the employer by negotiating deep discounts, and reduced cost to the employees by maintaining costs that were reliable and acceptable. Additionally, UHC customer service representatives were given the authority to resolve issues on the spot. The point is, there's always a way to reduce cost without sacrificing the needs of the employee. Cigna has not provided this level of customer service. For example, this past Monday, I witnessed a colleague spending more than 3 hours on the phone trying to resolve a Cigna issue. She had been inaccurately advised of an in-network physician and consequently ended up being charged for an office visit and was not able to schedule a surgery. In her own words, and I quote, "I was frazzled by the outrageous inaccuracies of Cigna's database and hilarious inconsistencies of the customer care providing the information. I called 3 times and literally received 3 grossly contrasting responses."
30 seconds.
What the employee needed was an advocate an advocate, someone who was familiar with the plan and familiar with the administrators to prevent and resolve issues that inevitably rise. Historically, the benefits department has not been able to provide this and has referred employees back to the administrators. Next week, you'll be making a very important decision on who we will contract, and hopefully you will take these ideas in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much for coming. Next speaker is Tammy Marino.
I just rushed to my head. Okay. Hi, everyone. So way earlier tonight, Mr. Burdine asked, can we do anything differently? And Dr. Dupree, you answered, yes, we can listen to the community. The community says we aren't ready for this bond. It's been pulled together too quickly and leaves things broken. The district has too many students, too few desks, 5th graders in middle school, and some schools half empty, all because of improper planning. To avoid this going forward, we must proactively plan for growth, population shifts, and program adjustments. Last year, I served on the Facilities Planning Committee. We were not planning for a bond. We were planning for proper use of existing facilities and determining where additions and new buildings were required. A year of poring over data and the community coming out in droves to dialogues, more than the number of folks who show up for school board elections. And so the community said Riverstone and Mariana need schools. But there were also hours spent debating the merits of academy programs. It was determined those programs should be vetted. When? There were hours spent discussing how odd many of our boundaries currently are, like Grail's Triangle, how messy our feeder patterns are, how this keeps crowded schools crowded and empty schools empty. When will we address this? The completed facilities plan wasn't perfect, but it was as close as you can get after a year of work by 50 folks and community input from thousands, driven by a third-party consultant. Thank you. But when the plan was presented and accepted by the board, it was, yes, we agree we need a plan, but we're not sure if this is the plan. What a slap in the face to the community who was committed to the process. By casting our plans aside to start over, the board is saying, we don't like what the community came up with, so we call a do-over. So then what was the point of last year? Fix what's broken first. Show us you'll honor your word and use existing funds to build Riverstone and Aliana. Show us you're making use of our underutilized buildings and shifting populations out of overcrowded buildings. Sorry, almost there. Then look at the bond package with a strategic eye. If I'm a Marshall or Willow Ridge parent, I'm voting no on this bond because my issues aren't addressed. And as a mom of 4 currently zoned to a high school that's at 98% capacity and rising, I can't vote for a bond until that's fixed. And as a taxpayer, I can't vote for a bond that includes maybe a career tech center, maybe not, maybe just programs. There are too many questions left unanswered. Let's spend existing funds and do real facilities planning and implement those plans so we know better where we stand before a bond. Thank you.
All right, and our last speaker tonight is Mr. Chris Alfrey.
As many of you may or may not know on the board, I've been going to the committee meetings, and I've been the only community representative that's made all those meetings. And I've taken that opportunity to record those meetings. And what I'm going to tell you tonight is what you didn't hear earlier tonight. At the first meeting I attended, the number coming into that meeting was $275 million for facilities. The page that was handed out to that night said that those costs had raised to $344 million, which was a $69 million increase that occurred to that bond committee at that meeting. They had no forewarning, they had nothing. Somebody in that meeting asked, why the increase? The answer was given, and not word for word, but was basically given to them that 46 was being built in 9 months on a GMP contract, which meant it was going to cost significantly more. Now, I can understand that for a single school, 9 months build. The problem is that same number was then extrapolated out to every other school. So now, not only has 46 been elevated in cost, but so is 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. So the board, the committee then said, and I believe it was Darren that started the conversation, said, well, I have a problem with how much we're paying for square footage. $277 a square foot, total program cost is quite expensive. The conversation started in that meeting, and they said, well, we feel it should be somewhere around $240 to $250. It was a very open conversation that should have occurred. So I figured coming to the next bond committee meeting, I would see a number somewhere around $240, $250. But what actually happened is at that next committee meeting, and I've got it on recording, is the bond committee was told, oh, well, it's now $242 a square foot, but we've got to add on inflation now, and we've also got to work in the contingency. So essentially what happened is we reduced the cost by $4 million, but we're still at $274 a square foot for complete program construction cost. I tell you all of this because basically, if this bond gets put through and buildings get pulled off and overinflated construction costs get left in there, what's going to happen is your bidders, your vendors, they're going to bid up to that bond price. If you tell them there's $28 million available to build a school, they're not going to tell you they can build it for 23. They're going to send you a bid for 27 or close to 28. And what you've done is you've artificially increased the cost of construction for Fort Bend ISD. So be very, very careful with what you do of this cost of construction because it's not right and it needs your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alfrey. Thanks for staying all night. Whoops, help. All right, I don't believe we have anything else to discuss. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.